Hi there and welcome to this video by Scholar Hall Computing. In this video we're going to be discussing built-in functions within Java. This is a questions by topic video, so we're going to be going through all the different types of questions that one can expect when they're looking at their Java coderunner exam specifically, and the different scenarios you'll be approaching when looking at built-in functions. We're going to be looking at example questions, and I'm going to run you through how when you're in your coderunner exam you want to be inputting all of that into your Eclipse file. You want to be testing it there and then putting it eventually into the actual coderunner block itself, running it, and then getting the correct answer. So we're going to be going through that whole methodology, and I'm going to be showing you how you should be approaching your coderunner exam questions. So let's get to it without further ado. Right, so the first thing we want to do is open up Eclipse and create a new Java project, and within that project create a class called test.java, or just test, call it test. And within that class we're going to create a main. Now this is the first thing we want to do in our coderunner exam, and it's the first thing we want to do now to get going with this exercise. The reason being because you are going to create your prototype methods down below that you're going to be testing, and here is where you're going to call them. So like question 1, question 2, which are all commented out for now because we're going to be creating them during the course of this exercise. And you're going to need to create variables that you're going to pass through your methods because you want to test that they work. So you're going to use a system.out.println as we go along in order to print to the console window to check your result, and your return statement should you need it within the method. So I'll expand a little bit about that later because I know that a few people are having difficulties with it. So you're going to need these two imports up here. If you choose not to put them in now, then later on in the exercise you're going to find that you will need them. You'll be prompted to import them in, but that's fine. You can just click it and it's literally just double click and the import is already done for you. So that's what I need us to create, and once we've done that we are ready to move on to question 1. Right, so this is question 1. Take variable x to be of type double and value 1.2345. Use a decimal format function to return variable x to 2 decimal places. Use the following function prototype, and we've got it right there. We're going to be using a string because it's going to be in a string format when you use the decimal format function. This is an inbuilt function within Java. You should be familiar with this. Take this time to pause the video and give it a go, and I'll see you in Eclipse to evaluate the answer. Right, so this is the answer for question 1 right here using the function prototype, and we're using a decimal format built-in function. Now you should be familiar with this, but if you're not, my approach should be, if I was in the coderunner exam and I couldn't quite remember what the syntax for the decimal format is, don't worry, head to Scholar Hall, go to Programming in Java, and it will be all under the coderunner notes, which are positioned at the very bottom of the Programming in Java page. More details will be given on that. A whole document with all the details of the answers to the questions given in this will be given, so don't worry. That would be my first approach, to go into Scholar Hall and have a look at the solutions there and the notes there. If those don't seem to be helping, then I'll look at the labs, because you aren't going to get any material that you're not going to get in the labs. The labs are also provided on Scholar Hall. But decimal format inbuilt function comes in this kind of syntax. So you'll be creating your new decimal format here, and that right here will be telling us that we're going to be doing this to 2 decimal places. I'm printing an initial value of x to see the difference between the initial value and the formatted value, and then we're calling it and we're creating our new number underscore format x. And what that's going to do is that's going to format our string with just system.out.printlning it here. It's really important to do your system.out.println when you're prototyping or testing it in Eclipse. Reason being because if you just return it, you're not going to be able to see what your outcome is in your console window, and you do want to see what your outcome is going to be. So make sure you do system.out.println and then just return it, because of course you need to return something of type string. Just return formatted string right here. That's bugging me right here. Okay, just return the formatted string, and that is your solution right there for question 1. So if you got that, well done. Let's move on to question 2 right now. And upon review of question 1, I realized that you couldn't really see anything. So if you couldn't see it when I was asking you to type in the main, here it is, and question 1 a bit clearer right there. Apologies that it was so zoomed out and pixelated. Right, so question 2, take a variable y of type double and value 1243.675544. Wow. Create a method that returns the number of digits before and after the decimal point and return the sum of these two values. So the sum of the number of digits before the decimal point and the number of digits after the decimal point. You're going to be adding those two together. So for the example 12.34, the number 4 should be returned, and our constructor is given below. So give that a go, and I'll see you in Eclipse. So our answer for question 2 is below. We have string. We have a string called x_string, and that's the value of our double y. And we have basically sectioned this into an array, where we're looking at the index value of the decimal point, and we are taking a string, a substring of our string, from the index value 0, i.e. the start of the string, to the decimal index, which we've called deci_index, and we're taking that as an integer, and we're taking it from the index value 0 to that point. And that's going to take all of our values before that point and as a substring, and then we're going to get that substring length, and then we're going to system.out.println that to be our number of digits before the decimal point. And we're going to do the exact same thing for after, but we're just going to get the string length, and our index values are going to be from the decimal index to the end index of, so the length of the actual string. So it's going to be from the decimal point to the end, and we're going to be returning, so decimal point val and after points val. And this is the answer to that question. That is how we're going to go about doing that. So hopefully you got all that right. And sorry, we're going to change that to double, and that's all fine. So just we'll change that to integer, because that obviously wasn't liking that as a string. So hopefully you got that correct, and let's move on to the next question. And just in case you didn't entirely understand that, if you do, then just skip ahead. When I say divide it into an array, this is what I'm talking about. So an array will look something like this. So it's got different units of data at different index points. And when it says something like x_string.index of this, we're trying to find the index point of that. So we always start an array with index value 0. So that's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we were asked to return the index value, that would be 4. So that would be index value 4 right there. And then when we're looking at substring, this is our string, and our substring would, in this case, from index value 0 to the assigned deci index, which was the index value 4 of the decimal point, we're looking at this section here, and this is our substring. And we're going to assign a name to this substring, which we won't see right here. This should be something like substring1 equals x_.substring, and that's and then right here, when we've got our length, we can perform this operation on regular strings, and that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to find the length of this string, and that will give us our final index value. And then we can do this again to find this substring right here, and that's pretty much an explanation of what's happening right there. Right, question 3. So we have string A, which equals hello, and string B, which equals world. Write a method that reverses string A and concatenates it with string B. Return the resultant string. So for those who don't know what concatenates means, it means to bring two together. So if we were to concatenate the string function and the string prototype, there'd be no space between them, which would be function prototype. So that's what concatenate means, and what we are requested to do is to reverse this string hello and concatenate it with the string world. And there's our constructor, so give that a go. Right, so hopefully you didn't find that too challenging. Our solution for question 3 is right here. Another point I just wanted to add is make sure if you're going to do a system.out.println or any of your code for that matter, it's always before the return statement, because anything after the return statement will not be executed. The return statement marks the end of the running of code. So just make sure that all your code is before that. So what we have here is we have our string length A, which is going to be our length of string A, which is given in, and that's the string hello. And we have an empty string representing the string, our new string called reverse. And we're basically using a for loop to go from the back index of the string A and go so from O to L to L to E to H, and that's what we're doing within this for loop. And we are establishing that character, and we are adding it to the string called reverse. So the string reverse will get the letters in reverse order of hello, and then it's a simple process of concatenating them together. We've done it here in the system.out.println, and we've returned them concatenated right here in a string format. And it's really as simple as that, and that is a question that has actually come up, and it just requires a bit of simple knowledge on for loops and using a bit of built-in functions like character wrap and string.length and things like that. So hopefully that you didn't find that too difficult, and let's move on to question 4. Question 4, so we have a string called rep, and the value of that is the string Java, and we have to create a method that returns the string rep that has all the letters A within the string replaced by the letter X, and we're going to use the function prototype below. This is a question I've actually seen within an examination, so definitely try and give this a go without just looking at the answer. So our solution for question 4 is below. We can see that it takes in a variable C, and it's used down here. We're creating a new string called C underscore replaced, and we're using that taken in variable C, and we're just doing dot replace A for X. So literally that simple, one line of code to replace those values. And what that will do is that built-in function will basically traverse through the string as if it's an array and take the letter A and replace it for the letter X, and it's really that simple. You don't need to go through the trouble of creating a for loop like we did here or anything like that. Just using a built-in function, it's so fantastic. You can system.out.println that just to see that in the result. We can see from a previously run one that it works perfectly fine, and then we return it for the purposes of the code runner examination. So hope that helped, and let's move on to the next question. Right, question 5. We are given a variable x of type double and the value 3.141592654. Use the ceil, floor, and round Java built-in functions to establish a floor value, ceil value, and round value. Return the sum of these 3 values. Use the following function prototype. These 3 built-in functions you should be familiar with, and I have seen this being asked in an examination before as well. So do make sure you are familiar with this. I will see you in Eclipse. So the solution for question 5 is right here. We can see that it's again relatively easy. Our built-in functions are pretty straightforward to remember: math.ceil and our variable x, math.floorx and math.roundx. We have assigned variables to each of these functions, and we're effectively, system.out.println so we can see it and returning the sum of these values. And it really is that simple. I am not commonly in the practice of returning something like that. I would much rather create a separate variable like summed, if you go double summed is equal to ceil val plus floor val plus round val. I'm much more in the practice of doing something like that and then returning summed. Simply because if you're going to get into the practice of returning a long operation, that just gets messy, and you're more likely to make errors that way. You're better off breaking things down into more lines. So hopefully you got that right too. Gets relatively straightforward when you're looking at built-in functions like this. So let's try and move on to a harder question with question 6. Right, question 6, arguably for me the most challenging question in this video. Given 2 variables, one an integer and the other a double, 10 being integer and 12.7654 being the double. Use a string.format function to format the double to 3 decimal places and format the integer to remain as it is, which I know makes no sense, but if you are familiar with the syntax of the string.format function, you will know exactly what I mean, and return the resultant string. So use the below function prototype. We will go through this in a high amount of clarity, so don't worry if you aren't familiar with it right now. Alright, so this is the solution for question 6. Just make sure that we remove those comments. And we have our integer a and double b coming in, and this at first may look extremely daunting. You're going to be looking at that thinking, what on earth is that? So we have our 2 variables, our first and our second, that are passed into this built-in function called string.format. So we have b is equal to our second variable to 3 decimal places, and we're looking at a float. That's all that means, our second variable to 3 decimal places. And then a, we're dealing with first on an integer. That's quite literally all there is to it. Don't get pushed off by all these percentage symbols. That just means second variable. And then that's the first variable, so A, and then that second one is B, and that's the 3, and that's just single integer. And that's all there is to it. And like I said, I'd rather we didn't just print off the 1, we just kept this all together as one string, and we just returned that, just to decrease the level of complexity and focus more on the syntax of the string.format built-in function. So again, I will hold a abstracted, like broken down version explaining what each of those means on Scholar Hall, and the syntax will be there for you to look at during your CodeRunner exam. So don't worry about that. Don't be pushed off. Don't be scared by the fact that it looks very different. Just know that this is a way that you're going to format a string, that you're going to essentially round it off, so to 3 decimal places. If they ask you to use string.format, it's always there available. It's on Scholar Hall. It will be in the built-in functions section of the CodeRunner notes, so do not worry. Right, question 7. This is going to be a bonus question because I'm not going to ask you to return anything. It's going to be a void method just for fun, really, just to see whether you're familiar with creating a random number generator. You will be asked to do this, to print 10 random numbers, and for them to be between 1 and 10. So just give that a go. It's totally fine for you to just do a system.out.println, and you will not need to return anything because, like I said, this method is of type void. So you just need to do a system.out.println to make sure that it's printed to the console window. So give that a go, and I'll see you in Eclipse. And finally, our solution for question 7 is below, again of type void. It's just for fun. And we are importing our random up here. So again, our decimal format import was up here, and our random one is right here. It will ask you to import that, and we're creating a little for loop, so just to print it until, for 10 times, and it's going to be printing between 1 and 10, and that's how we do it. That's our syntax right there, system.out.println. And let's give this all a run and see if we have the values that we expect. Of course, we're going to need to uncomment that. So these are the actual correct values that are going to be printed to our console window. And these are the correct answers. Well, they're going to vary because we have a random number right here, but if you kept the variables the same, these should be your answers within the console window. And within your CodeRunner exam, do aim to do system.out.println so you can get these answers and ensure that you are writing the right code. So hopefully this all helped, and good luck for your CodeRunner exams, and see you in the next video.